Good evening and welcome to this edition of the Hot Seat this Friday, the 24th day of October in the year 2025. And with me in the studio is a part of the most experienced journalists and pundits to discuss the major events of the week. Guys, remember that I never introduced myself. Anyway, I'm your host, old man of the clan, man of broken hearts, lord of the Kalangala archipelago, big dog of the African continent, and what else? Deputy King of Toro, without a doubt. So within the studio, I have this panel. I have from the Human Rights Mujahedin, Jimmy Odoki. Is it Odoki or Odochi?
Odoki.
Odoki. Yes. Then from the Government Media Center, its own director who replaced Ofono Pondo, Obed Katurebe. Now, Obed is the first person there to really argue the government case, because Ofono sometimes would appear on TV and it sounds like an opposition politician. That's what I love about NRM, by the way. It's a credit to NRM that they can be so self-critical. It's the most liberal political party in Uganda because Defiance and Loop are fascist organizations. If any member criticizes them 0.1%, they would hound them out of that party like mad dogs. Okay, also from the Bahima clan, representing the rulers of this country, is Frank Mujimba, a banker and an ultra-conservative homophobe. And then, of course, our own member of parliament for the people.
Yeah, for the people.
For
yes.
the people.
Yes.
Isaac Akayono. Gentlemen, welcome to this all-male chauvinistic show.
Thank you.
And since you're all my great-grandchildren. So I first want us to discuss Raila. I was not here last week, Friday. Raila is an incredible man. I witnessed his funeral. Not Moi, not Kenyatta, not Kibaki got that kind of hero's send-off. Yeah. So I want to begin with this. What is it that made him tower above all presidents? Because he fought for the job of president all his life and failed to get it. But I felt the Kenyan population and the breadth of the Kenyan leadership came together to honor him in the biggest way any Kenyan of any political heft has been honored in their death.
Yeah, so like last week we said, Odoki here said, he was a king without a crown. He achieved everything a president achieves. He had the power, he had the influence, he had the money, he had everything. And for me, I think that was the testament of how great he was. I had an opportunity to meet him once and shake hands, and it was an informal event. I was playing golf at Ngong Golf Course and Races. And people left, these were the elites of the elites, left the course because they had Raila was at the clubhouse. And literally, I mean, even I just wanted to see the man, and everybody went, and he was shaking hands freely. I think he was there for a meeting with one of those prominent politicians. And it is the so-called Masanyalazi in our local. So he had that power. He had the presence. I understand why the Kenyans felt like that. The issue here is that he has died too soon, in the sense that we are going for a very critical 2027 to see whether Ruto would be a one-term president. If anything, he also did the service above self in many ways. He even when it was clear he won, he compromised and got into government, and I felt like that's the difference here. You can't, if people can't even be seen to join iPod because they can shake, President Museveni is going to be there. I mean, that is the selfishness we have in our politicians. But I think, he was that great of a man.
So he said he was a king without a crown, a person who exercised influence without being president. What lesson do you, as Frank, draw from his political career that could be relevant to Ugandan politicians?
Okay, first of all, Andrew, I think for me, I would describe him as a man to whom...
Oh, by the way, guys, I should mention that Raila, when I used to host this show, was a regular guest of this show. Yes, between 2002 and 2006. 2002 elections, during the campaigns, when he was supporting Kibaki, they were competing against Uhuru, who was fronted by Kanu and Moi. He appeared during that campaign 3 times on the show. He was really the power behind Kibaki. He was the power behind NAC. There would never be NAC without him. So he was a regular, okay, at least he appeared severally on this show when it was still called Andrew Mwenda Live. Yes, now you, Frank. What lessons?
What is it called now?
The hot seat.
Yeah, first of all, Andrew, I would like to describe him as a man to whom God was really unfair. Really, God was unfair to Raila Odinga. There is a saying that before the father died, he had sort of cast him because of disorganizing. I think his rallies in the 1994, 90 from 1990s elections. So they say maybe he was cast, and I really don't know how deep that is. But I think the reason as to why, the reason as to why he was given such a send-off, you cannot really, you look at the participation of his family, the family of Jaramogi Odinga, his contribution towards Kenya getting independence, how he's frustrated. So partly it is his family, but also the participation of Raila Odinga when he starts active politics around 1990s, after he had been imprisoned for about 6 years, after the infamous after the infamous coup of 19. But the fight, the struggles for political parties and democracy in Kenya starts around 1990, and I think around 1991 or 1992, then Kenya opens up to multi-party politics. Then I think he then participated in the elections in 1997. He comes back, I think, around 2003, 2002, 2007,
2017,
then even the latest February 2025 at the African Union. Yes. So I think greatly, first of all, it is the contribution that he actually put into, after colonialism. What happened in Africa is that we got another wave of dictators here in Africa. Almost the entire Africa got. So breaking the yoke and getting back into democracy, he really contributed a lot in terms of Kenya. But what do we learn from him that we actually don't have here in Uganda, and it is common with Kenyan politicians, is that for them, they actually fight and then again work together. And that is actually lacking here in Uganda. For an opposition political party leader, let's say Chagulanyi or any other political leader, to be seen sitting or working in Museveni's government, then that becomes treason or something like that. So I think what we need to learn from Raila Odinga himself, but also the Kenyan politics, is that politics should be about interests. Understand? And
not about person and more cities.
Yes.
Okay, we come to a bed. Would you agree with that 100%, wouldn't you?
True. I think, like I said last weekend, two things are clear and makes him a monster of a human being. Well,
a monster?
I mean, bigger, larger than life.
A giant.
A giant. Him being the father and mother of multi-party democracy in Kenya is not doubted. But most importantly, I think what makes him unique and an enigma is that when he had all the power, especially when he was robbed of victory, I think twice, during Kibaki, that led to 2007 and
2017.
That was outright robbery. Then even Uhuru, the other president.
2017 election.
2017.
In fact, the courts annulled the election.
Yes, but he chose not to participate because
he pulled out.
He realized he can't do much. The same electoral commission would still cheat him. Even when he
actually, because I had a conversation with him after, and he said the annulment of the election was good, but if he had contested, it would have, the campaigns would have been violent and no outcome would have been accepted, in which case they would go back to 2007. It was better for him to pull out and ensure stability than stay and create chaos.
And that's what makes him, that's what made him unique, kind of a special human being that he ended up being. Even when he had the power to push like those violence that, even the last one against Ruto, if had been on the front line with those agencies, probably Ruto would have gone. But against Kibaki, he sits down, he listens to Kofi Annan for the sake of peace. Kenya moves on. Against Uhuru 2017, against Uhuru pleads with him, and the man still accepts. And even recently against Ruto, I think that kind of a human being that was ready to sacrifice, where he could have pushed and gotten the victory he needed, but for the sake of Kenya, he just pulls off, and I think earned him respect across board.
So let me come to Jimmy, who you are an admirer of Besigye. You think that there was any opportunity for Besigye to behave as graciously, where you are clearly robbed as graciously as Raila did? And you think, because people here, all the three have said that the Ugandan politicians will not do it. Do you think Besigye would have done a Raila?
Why not?
So what in his actions showed that he was capable of anything near Raila?
You know,
he lost every election, he claimed he won it, tried to organize protests to bring down
most
government.
of you people portray Dr. Kizza Besigye as a very angry man who is. You have spoken with him much more. You have interacted for hours. But what kind of personality do you find him? I have met him maybe 3-4 times, but I find him.
Is that a question where you need my answer?
No, because I find you very. When you are talking about Besigye, you become so radical. You know, you portray him in a certain manner that. That is
point of information. He said, in 2006, after the election, you and Mkapa and Conrad tried to
2011.
2011?
After the 2011 election, yes.
The one with that was 2006. 2011 is after he came. 2006 was the close one where he was in jail and everything. He had come back from South Africa. And you guys had the three-way, Conrad, yourself, and whatever. And I've heard this story from you. Maybe you should just shed light on it, where President Museveni had cleared all the conditionalities for talks, and he refused.
The good thing is I have my notes on my phone.
Yes, so you should share them with.
Let him first, because he posed the question. I thought he was asking me. You are the one who knows him. If you want me to explain, from my personal
which I find so strange that you have had discussions. You have interviewed him many times. Last time you said you went to his house, and then you still give a very negative, which is not here. It's really unfair. Because Dr. Besigye is a very kind. He thinks about this country much more than he's an intellectual. He looks at in a very, not just about himself. If it was about himself, he would have had this rebellion. Would have made this place ungovernable. But because he cares, he would, if it came to a discussion around that, he would he would give it thought, and he would think what is good, what is best for the country, not for himself. If it was about himself, he would have left this struggle a long time ago, because he cares about the country. If it was about him as an individual, he wouldn't be in this mess. He wouldn't be in prison now. Unfairly, you know the reason why he's in prison. It is not true that he was involved. It's all cooked up, because they feared that if he was a part of this election going on now, it would not be the kind of election we are seeing. Okay, so they say, let us first get rid of him, cook up stories, and later, these things have been written on social media and elsewhere that they found that those evidences were not real, they were fake.
We have taken a break. I'll be right back. Welcome back to this edition of the Hot Seat. This second segment of this edition of the Hot Seat, featuring this great panel of media experts to discuss the major events of the week. Frank Mujimba, Obed Katurebe. This is the two. Third is also three Banyarwanda. Three Banyarwanda. There is a Kayode, three Banyarwanda, and one actually. You can imagine how this country is going.
They just
So we don't have any. Anyway. So let me, guys, allow me, or the host, to do my pitch on. So you wanted to conclude on something?
I would like to conclude that Dr. Kizza Besigye has always explained that this is a non-violent struggle. So if it's non-violent, why would they be procuring arms or all these things? So I think that is just a way to, it was just meant to get him out of there so that he's not involved in these elections, cycle, to make it so easy for Museveni to have a way. But if he was part of this as a supporting PFF or all this, it would be very different. So, and even the recording, the audio recording that you've talked about before, they have written that it was found that it's fake, and the president was really annoyed. But they're now trying to find ways how to get him out. So anyway, you know better. So,
so first of all, let me give you my view of Besigye. I think that Besigye is convinced deep inside him that he is pursuing something that is in the best interest of Uganda. And I believe he is so convinced about that. That is one. Two, because he's so convinced about the fact that Uganda is headed in the right direction and it needs rescue from
the wrong direction.
From that wrong direction, he is willing to sacrifice anything, everything, including his life, to pursue that rescue. So to that degree, I admire his courage, his stand on principles, and his commitment to his ambition, his ideals. Where I begin to part with Besigye is that you cannot say your individual belief and conviction must override every single thing that exists in the world. Because your belief must be contested against the beliefs and convictions of others. Because the way Besigye is convinced about it, Museveni is also convinced that he's actually liberating Uganda and trying to develop it. How do you reconcile these two convictions? Because Museveni sees Besigye as subverting the process of Uganda's transformation. Besigye sees Museveni as subverting it. So in a healthy democracy, I don't want to use a democracy, in a healthy political system, it's important for people to sit around the table and discuss their differences. Where I fault Besigye are two areas. Let me begin with one, because we are talking about Raila. And something Besigye could have learned about Raila, and I'll also come to Mandela. Raila recognized that Kenya is much bigger than him, and his personal opinion and conviction cannot override the convictions of all others in Kenya. So even though it was so apparent in 2007 that he won the election, and there was violence actually instigated by his vice presidential running mate Ruto, the other side by Uhuru, he felt that somehow the survival of and future of Kenya depended on finding a negotiated settlement with Kibaki. However much he may feel aggrieved as a person to have been robbed of the job, he felt, I can go and work as his prime minister, we can try to work out together. Because that is the good of the country. So if I participated, as Isaac was saying, with Conrad Yankut, trying to organize negotiations with Museveni. I have been thinking maybe I should write down notes. Besigye gave us 5 or 6 conditions which Museveni should meet. Museveni accepted all of them. And he reached a point I became the stumbling block, because I felt, okay, Museveni put conditions, 100% Besigye rejected them. Besigye put conditions, Museveni tried even to modify them, Besigye could not even accept the modest modifications to them. The final act, it is me who told the president, said, Mr. President, I don't want to drag you into negotiations where the other person enters without having to give up anything. You know, even when you go to borrow money from a bank normally says, okay, you want to build a house or to buy a house, you put a 30%, so we show your commitment. Then we'll give you 70%. This boy is a bank here, Frank. So there is something you have staked. I even asked Conrad, so what has Besigye staked? He's walking into negotiations having staked nothing. No, I listen to you, my grandson. So my own experience with Besigye have been Besigye's friend to his wife Winnie. I have visited in their home, eaten their food, even slept in their bedroom. Not just bedroom, their bed.
Please, spare us
with them. Both would not be there. Not once, not twice, because whenever I would go to their home in Imbarara, actually they had said I can always use their bedroom. So I'd always use it. So that's how close we were. But politically, I disagree with that. I have disagreements with Museveni. I get frustrated. I get angry when I hit potholes. I feel like I should go to State House and punch the president's nose. But ultimately, I have also to recognize maybe there's so many other pressures he has to spend on other areas other than Kampala streets. You see what I mean? Going to Fort Portal these days is a nightmare. You go to Arua, it's a nightmare. You're going to Bushenyi, it's a nightmare. Roads over everywhere. I feel you're going to Mutukula, the road is broken. You go to Hoima, they're trying to do. I mean, so we all have differences with him and disagreements. But we also need to hear him. So basically, I felt 2 things. One, he's so principled that his principledness has led him to being rigid that he lacked any sense of pragmatism, that there is a time when you have to fight on the street and a time when you have to negotiate with the government in the boardroom. And that's the difference with the Raila. Raila, the Bible says there's a time for sowing and a time for harvesting. There's a time for this, and there's a time for protest on the street. There's a time for contesting the state in court. There's a time for articulating against the government in the media. But there's a time for entering a room, a boardroom, with the government to negotiate the interests of your constituents. Besigye said zero, no communication. So you have been in the struggle for 25 years. You've never had any meeting, any form of negotiation with the president. All attempts have been thwarted by you. I mean, if he became president, I don't think Besigye will negotiate with anybody. It means he would rule by diktat. You get it? However much I may love him, and however much I may admire his principled stance on things, I find if you cannot negotiate any negotiation and compromise, you know, you can never achieve all that you want. So what Besigye need to realize, and Museveni needs to realize, and Museveni sees it actually, is a balance of dissatisfaction. That once you go into negotiations, you are going to give up something important, dear to you, for you to win another one. And Museveni also has to give up something in order also to win another. So both of you may be dissatisfied, but we may need a balance of dissatisfaction. The talks of 2011 failed because Besigye was not willing to give ground to anything. Museveni proved it to me, and he told me at the beginning of the discussion, he said, you see, Mwenda, Ogola came here, just Ogola. Said they're organizing talks. I gave money, it failed. Somebody else came, it failed. I don't want you people to think that I am against these kinds of discussions. I am going to agree to this in order to avoid any implication that in any way I'm a stumbling block to negotiations. Along the way, even the last time when Besigye had said, Museveni had demanded that he must recognize there is a legitimate government he's going to negotiate with. Besigye said he can never recognize the government. But then we are recognized by the UN, by the AU, by the East African community, by you, Besigye, by paying taxes, by everybody. What does it cost you? So Besigye stuck to his guns. This is a criminal government. So okay, Museveni said, okay, let's go and negotiate with these criminals, because you are trying to extract things from government. If the government is illegal, they were asking him, can you recognize? Museveni had said, can you recognize the legality of the government? Because how can we do anything if we are an illegal entity? But finally Museveni withdrew it. I'm the one who refused. He said no. Then it means he's coming in these talks without giving away anything. He does not take them seriously, because he should at least sacrifice something small. We amended that. Me and Conrad Nkutu wrote even a statement for him to say, we will not accept the legality but the legitimacy of the government, because we have to negotiate with it. Not the legitimacy. We'll accept the legality of the government, not its legitimacy, because it has to pass laws and things like that that will enforce what we have agreed in the negotiations.
But old man, for the benefit of our listeners, what exactly did you want to negotiate Besigye to do in this in that particular government at that time?
What we wanted to do is to get the opposition, civil society, the business community, and the NRM into negotiations on how we can construct a new political dispensation for Uganda.
Not a power sharing.
That would be an outcome. You see, you cannot they were each party, because we wanted a neutral moderator, mediator. So we talked to Mukapa, he agreed. We needed an international guarantor. We talked to the Cattle Center, they agreed. These were business conditions anyway. You get? Yeah. They were business conditions. But so the idea was that we need to have a national dialogue to discuss the future of Uganda.
Yes.
And let me tell you, they say it's better to try and fail than fail to try. Once we enter negotiations, it's possible Museveni would have manipulated it to his advantage, but we can never know that unless we enter them. And I kept insisting on this. We can never know that. If we prejudge Museveni on prejudice and bias, you get it, then we can never know what would have come out. If we had gone there, Museveni disbanded it, disregarded it or something, we would have full proof that this man is not committed to these things. But right now we can only speculate.
He could read through and see.
No, but I think for me, just to emphasize Andrew's point, that it has worked. It worked in Kenya, it worked in Zimbabwe, it worked in, the desire, when you're in the society and you have extremes, there's no middle ground. You can't even have send leaders like Muntu or Mao make, neutral or things that there's this common thing called Uganda that even Independence Day, at least we can agree that, okay, let's all go and attend Independence Day because it is the day we got independence.
The only time President showed up was the Pope.
The Pope, in Namugongo, and the debate. And the debate. That's the only time he has shaken President Museveni's hand. And for me, I think that creates that polarization of society.
We'll be right back. Let's take another break. Welcome back to this edition of the Hot Seat, featuring a part of the most experienced journalists and pundits to discuss the major events of the week. We have Jimmy Odoki. He is from the Humanist Mujahideen. From the government propaganda machinery, is Obed Katurebe. From the conservative forces of homophobia, we have Frank Mujimba. And finally, from the member of parliament for the people. Yes. Of Gomba. Not this other, but for the people, we have my great grandson Isaac Kayonde. So I want to begin with the. I spoke too much. I was too much of a monologue. But I want to begin with the Obed because we want to compare Raila. Last night we did Raila and Besigye and how each one of them as a major politician has played their cards. Because I feel that Raila played his cards and became influential without becoming president, and he was gracious. Besigye, by playing too hardline a position, he has failed to exercise any influence on the government.
But it's not correct to compare Raila and Besigye. Raila's history is so deep and entrenched in Kenyan history, right from even ending the one-party rule.
From the coup in 82.
Ending the coup, it's alleged, I don't know if he was part of it, but ending the one-party rule, then all the constitutional reforms that define Kenya today, then his democratic pursuit for all these many years. Basically, is just a rebel of the Museveni's NRM. In fact, even some people just look at him as a disgruntled former NRM cadre, which he was anyway. Most things, he was the first political commissar, maybe things that entrenched NRM and President Museveni. He is the one who authored them. So, in my view, Raila is so big, he's so entrenched than Besigye, who just disagreed with Museveni along the way. And like we have already discussed, the level of tolerance that, and like I said, that Raila has exhibited on two occasions makes him a unique person. To the contrary, Besigye is so radically opposed to Museveni, probably does not want to listen to anything from him. And then all you guys who have tried to make peace.
Besigye fought in the Bush struggle. This is from 1981 to 1985. He was the first national political commissar. He was the Minister of Internal Affairs. He has been deep. He has been in the Ugandan military establishment. He has been Museveni's personal doctor. You cannot say his footprint in the Ugandan politics is not as deep as Raila's. In fact, I would imagine could even be deeper.
No.
But what I'm saying, Andrew, Raila was a man of his own. Not that he probably was nurtured by, say, Moi and whatever, then fed up with Moi to begin his opposition politics.
Maybe he was the son of his father, who was the first vice president.
Oh, yes, but I mean, by all his life, he lived literally like his father. Opposing all the injustices that were being meted on Kenyans. So he's a man of his own. He's not this person who disagreed with his mentor and then still lives in the shadow of, basically still lives in the shadow of President Museveni. There's no doubt about that one. Whereas Raila began, even as a young boy, Frank has just told us, which probably could be true, he even disagreed with his father. As a young person. So he cut himself as in his own frame for all his life and pursued his politics. So he has his clear identity from a young person to date. But basically, like if you just put it, he was Museveni's doctor, he's his political commissar, he's his boy, trusted cadre, until they disagreed just yesterday in 2001. I mean, around 2000 when they fell out. So he can't be as massive as Raila in terms of influencing Uganda. That's why, apart from some few people in his Rukunji region, area, and then parts of urban Uganda, then North, which has since even before he was, I think before he sort of began retiring from politics, the North had all left him and gone to Museveni. So, whereas Raila,
in that background, he could not build his own oats.
Oh yes, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay. Let me come to. You had talked a lot about him. Okay. Let me come to Isaac first. You see, if the failure I see of Besigye was, Besigye lacked an ethnic base, the way Raila had the Luo ethnic base. Sometimes I felt that Besigye was afraid because of lack of an ethnic base. Any attempt to compromise with Museveni, his base was cosmopolitan, young, urbanized youth. They are not as loyal because there is no identity that unifies them behind a person. So if he feared to, and he told me this himself, that if I go and meet Museveni today, I have an interview in the Independent with him in 2013 or 2016 actually, where he says, if I left this place, I went to State House to meet Museveni, tomorrow my position would be taken away. I feel Kwago has the same problem. So do you think that the lack of maybe a loyal ethnic base is what denied him the courage to talk to Museveni, and Raila's having a very solid ethnic base gave him the confidence that he could talk to the other guys without losing his base?
Well, I don't know how to view this, but I think for me it's just politics 101. Raila Odinga, his uniqueness is the fact that I think what made him was the aspect of compromise and him getting into government in such a way that he had mastered the inner works of government and how it operated, whether you are in opposition or you are in government. The goal was to always be in government. Now, I feel like Besigye's goal now is to always be in opposition. Just by that statement means that if he goes and shakes Museveni's hands and is put in government, then he has no position. You get what I'm saying? That for him,
he is either president or
opposition. So now in Uganda, it has become so fashionable to be opposition. Last weekend, I told you I went to Kabozi, another radio station where I was sitting next to Lutamaguzi, and as we were speaking and asked him, he talked about so many economic things. He said how there were 1 million people killed in Luwero, and I asked him, okay, if you say this, do you believe there were 1 million people killed in Luwero? Like, when you say such a thing, do you actually believe it?
But I should tell you, according to the 1980 population census, there were 330,000 people in Luwero.
Yes.
So even if about had killed 100% of them, there would not have been the 500,000 Museveni claims to have been.
No, I mean. He didn't, it wasn't his time to speak, and he never came back to it. But you see, the thing is that it has become popular or fashionable to be opposition, and there is plenty of money in that area, and we can see it around what recently Noop was talking about, how they were, chest thumping and saying, you know what, we can't talk to Museveni, we can't do this and everything. But when the issue around money came into play, they all of a sudden they want to compromise and do the same thing that you're saying. Oh, we don't legitimize, we can see the legalities. But so for me, I feel like Raila transcended that aspect of, you don't have to be, the issue here is Kenya first. The issue here is that which you're looking at. What I was talking about, he had another opportunity in 2016 where all these opposition people were seated on the round table with Amama Mbabazi, and agreements were signed. Kofi Annan they went to Raila in Kenya. Agreements were signed for him. They took him to London. I remember a document came out, him agreeing to support Mbabazi. And when they got here, the man changed. Then that meeting where Odongo picked him up from
it was an organized kidnapping,
coordinated. So for me, his inability to see that, okay, if the foreigners want this Amama Mbabazi person to be the president, I can take this second position and push it. You saw what happened here recently in this election. Mugisha Muntu went to PFF and went to the NUP headquarters, and they were negotiating something to do with the fact that, please, let us have a common candidate, right? NUP said, we don't need those guys. We are the ones who have the numbers. They couldn't even envision a situation where if we support Muntu, for example, he comes with a bit of goodwill from the NRM side. Like they couldn't envision such a thing. They said,
Anyway,
quickly, I'm just saying you can't put these two individuals and compare them in any way, in any form or shape.
Before we take another break, and from that break we'll listen to the Conservative on this show. My great-grandson, Paul Bushariza, sent a very interesting insight. He says, you see, Raila had a major stake in the economy as an industrialist. Hence, for him to be more compromising, politics wasn't a zero-sum game.
That's true.
So that I find, Paul, I'm really impressed by your point. We are going to another break. When we come back, the leader of the homophobes of Uganda will give his... Good evening and welcome to this last segment of this edition of the Hot Seat, featuring the panel, this great panel of the most experienced journalists and pundits to discuss the major events of the week. From the Human Rights Mujahideen, we have Jimmy Odoki. That is also Messages man. Then from the Government Media Center, we have Museveni's man, Obed Katurebe. From the Mahima Conservative factions, we have Jimba. And from the people, representing the people. Now we are discussing the legacy of Raila, and we're trying to compare Raila as an opposition figure with Besigye in Uganda and Bobby Wine. So I want to come to you, Frank. Leaving Besigye aside, when you look at Raila and look at Bobby Wine, is there anything in Bobby Wine? Why are you laughing? Because I'm trying to see, do we have an opposition leader in Uganda who can transcend partisan politics and try to cross the aisle and ensure that there is discussion of the future of Uganda?
No, but
okay, first of all, Andrew, let me say this. Maybe a quick point that I would put across is that these people, should I say, these people exist in a wrong era, if I could say, during the presence of President Museveni, because you've been saying here that in 2011, after the elections of 2011, when you had when you wanted to have a discussion, President Museveni and Besigye to have a discussion, but it actually failed. Maybe there is something, probably these people, let's say it is power sharing. So which position are you going to give to Dr. Kanuchiza Besigye? Even if you gave him such a position, let's say vice president or minister or something, will he actually have power? Probably these people that came from the bush with President Museveni understand him. They know that even if you negotiated and there is some sort of power sharing, they will never leave that. Actually.
But Frank,
yes,
is the only negotiation that can happen is on power sharing?
Okay.
Is that the only issue to negotiate?
No. It's not only about that. But let me first get back to Raila Odinga for me to give you a clear comparison. What is happening? The politics of Kenya is quite different from the politics here in Uganda. Apart from his family participating in the politics of Kenya, apart from his struggle to open up multi-party politics in Kenya, there is also a backup of tribes in Kenya. Like what you see, what is happening in Kenya now. It is now Ruto who is a Kalenjin. That is his tribe, right? Yes, who is in power, and he has been sharing power with the Luos, because he has been in the same government with Luo, has been in the same government with Ruto. Now Rigathi Gachagua has been kicked out. Understand? Because he was complaining that they had agreed on something. I think some members of cabinet that they had agreed from his party, or the Kikuyu ministers that were supposed to take up positions in the government of Kenya. Ruto did not fulfill that. Eventually, Rigathi Gachagua is kicked out of government. Then the laws are now brought onto the table. Understand? So the politics in Kenya is quite different. But what is happening in Uganda is that it is politics of personal interest. That if any political leader, let's say Chagulanyi or Bobby Wine or anybody, Chagulanyi or Besigye, whoever it is, if they are seen to sit with President Museveni and discuss with him, they think that populations will think that now these people have actually betrayed them, and maybe in the next elections they lose even the areas where they had grip.
Yes, Jimmy.
I agree with what Frank has said. If Besigye was in the bush all those years, worked after, he understands President Museveni better than you people who are organizing that negotiation. So he knows, and President Museveni has a record of betrayal. I'll extrapolate to the Nairobi peace talks, and after any person who joins, how are you going to guarantee that when we negotiate, these things will be implemented?
But I told you already, because we had actually an international guarantor of the outcomes.
So there maybe it's conversant. He knows what the president has done in the past with people who try to work with him. So you want to make it solid that by the time you sign, you agree to work together. But compared to Kenya, Moi wasn't a military man. Kibaki, no background in the military. So it's easy to deal with people, but it's harder to deal with soldiers.
What, Jimmy, if let me assume Besigye follows your thinking, you are looking for how any form of negotiation can fail rather than how it can succeed. Because you have prejudged Museveni. Besigye should know, and everybody knows, Museveni is a very pragmatic person. In fact, Museveni has been willing to adjust his positions based on circumstances. You cannot accuse Museveni of a certain rigidity. Museveni is a person who is willing to adjust. He's willing to adjust both his positions and his alliances. That is why he can talk to full figure. You cannot say that Museveni has pursued one public policy. Museveni came with left-wing ideas. When they failed to work, he shifted to IMF and World Bank and neoliberal ideas. You have seen recently, he has really shifted to try to bring back the state in, to take an active role, you see.
For the meantime, while neutralizing, you're trying to, so that it makes you as, it can deal with you in a way that...
But the problem therefore is that we can never know what the outcome would have been if it would have been best for Besigye to go there and Museveni does not honor his promises, and then we hold him to account on that. But we cannot hold him to account on Besigye's suspicions.
Yes.
On account of the past, what is done in the past.
But the past cannot always be a guide to the future. For example, if we had used many companies design their business plans without ever knowing there can be a shutdown of the world through COVID. So COVID cannot be seen in any event in the past.
And if I may come in, I think in our conversations you hinted on it a little bit, but maybe for the benefit of our listeners, let me make it more loud. I mean, Raila Odinga was not a victim of capture. To the rule, he was the king. He could take a decision, then go back to the rural land and tell them I've taken this decision because of 1, 2, 3 things, and they'll accept.
Absolutely.
Besigye lacks that bigger constituency where he can take
Does
decision.
he lacks the courage.
No, he doesn't have it. Andrew, his constituents are radical extremists scattered in urban Uganda. So he doesn't have this constituency of the say Bajankwera where you say I'll go talk to President Museveni and go and explain I've taken this position because of this.
I'm happy you have brought it. I had made that point earlier that maybe best elected ethnic base. So, but I would want to criticize that idea because for me the test of the greatness of a politician is the willingness to lead. You can. He's a hostage to his base.
He's hostage to the radical group.
Extremist base.
In which case, if he talks to,
but he's allowing them to lead him instead of him leading them. Because let me tell you, that's why I can never maybe be a politician. I am willing, in pursuit of a principle, to lose my base on the principle than keep my base by forsaking a principle. And earlier when we were off air, I told you about President Kagame. I have seen him with willingness to antagonize allies and even go against his friends in promotion of an ideal that the future of Rwanda, the development of Rwanda, that he really believes. Somebody has to stick out for something they believe in. Yeah. Then if I become a victim and a hostage of my base, and in accepting what the best wants, I lose the goals I want to achieve. Why do I need the best?
But maybe
then it means I'm pursuing a personal agenda. What distinguished Raila and would have talked about Mandela from Besigye is that they were willing to place the interest of the country and their ideals above their personal ambition to remain popular, to remain with their base, or to be president. Once they were willing to do that, to put the interest of the country above the self, then they could go and talk to the other side. Besigye suffers either cowardice, in which case he's terrified of his own base, or if it's not cowardice, then it means his personal ambition to be president is so overwhelming that he cannot negotiate anything except to negotiate with himself to get out of office.
Maybe that's a point.
But I think for me, I mean, it's the disease that catches all opposition people. You find Bobi Wine is in the same trap. I mean, he can't seem to even think. He goes on a podium and is talking about Museveni didn't study. Do you have a photo of his graduation? I mean, those are things that
I wrote an article called "The Besigenization of Bobi Wine."
So he went to Hoima and said, "Look, Hoima is supposed to be Dubai and everything." And in my mind, I'm saying, okay, fine. This is the guy that has the most likely chance outside Museveni of becoming president.
God forbid. Guys, we have run out of time. We have to end the show here. We'll be back next week with another interesting discussion. Good evening.